The last transmission. The council chamber hung in the void between star systems, a ring of cold metal and ancient stone orbiting nothing. No sun warmed its halls. No planet anchored it to reality. It simply existed, as it had for 11,000 cycles, a neutral ground where the powers of the galaxy came to speak instead of slaughter. Commander Veklis of the Tharn Dominion stood at the observation window, his 4 arms folded behind his carapace. Beyond the reinforced glass, the darkness stretched infinite and hungry. He had seen civilizations rise and fall in that darkness. He had watched species claw their way to the stars only to be swallowed whole by wars they could not win. The galaxy was not kind. It did not reward the weak. Behind him, the council floor buzzed with low conversation. 17 species. 17 voices. 17 different ways of saying the same thing over and over again. He was tired of all of them. The matter is settled, announced Speaker Orleth, her crystalline form refracting the cold blue light of the chamber. The human homeworld falls within contested territory. The Krail Syndicate has claimed salvage rights. There is no legal precedent for intervention. Veklis did not turn. He had heard this argument 6 times already. The humans were gone. Their cities were ash. Their fleets were debris. The Krail had descended on Earth like scavengers on a carcass, and now they were stripping the bones. It was the way of things. The strong survived. The weak became resources. Legality is a convenience, muttered Ambassador Thrain from the Muradin Collective, his segmented body coiled on the heated platform reserved for cold-blooded species. The humans resisted for 3 planetary rotations. 3. That is longer than most species last against the Krail. Should that not warrant consideration? Consideration? Counselor Jex of the Zyron Empire laughed, a sound like grinding stone. They threw rocks at warships. They used chemical explosives against plasma cannons. They died bravely, I will grant you that, but bravery does not earn a seat at this table. Strength does. Intelligence does. The humans had neither. Veklis finally turned. His black eyes swept the council floor. Jex was not wrong. The humans had been outmatched from the beginning. Their technology was primitive. Their weapons were crude. They had no allies, no trade agreements, no leverage. When the Krail came, the galaxy watched. When the humans burned, the galaxy moved on. But something bothered him. There was a transmission, Veklis said, his voice cutting through the murmur of debate. The chamber quieted. Orletha's facets glinted as she turned toward him. What transmission? 4 cycles ago. Broadcast on all frequencies. Origin point, Earth. It was brief. 37 seconds. Our analysts could not decrypt the majority of it, but the opening line was clear. He paused, letting the silence settle. It was addressed to us. Thrain uncoiled slightly. To the council. To the galaxy. Veklis gestured, and a holographic display flickered to life in the center of the chamber. Static hissed and popped. Then a voice emerged, rough and broken, speaking in the human tongue. The translation matrix lagged for a moment before catching up. This is Dr. Elena Kovac, Earth Defense Command. If you are receiving this, then we are already gone. The voice was female. Human females, Veklis had learned, often carried a softness to their speech, a melodic quality. This one did not. This one was stone. We know you were watching. We know you did nothing. That is your right. The galaxy does not owe us mercy. We understand that now. Jex snorted. Self-pity. Typical of a dying species. Quiet, Orleth said sharply. The transmission continued. You believe we were weak. Perhaps we were. Our ships were slower. Our weapons were older. We had no ancient technology, no forgotten empires to give us an edge. We were young. We were alone. But we were not afraid. The static surged, then cleared. You will find our cities burned. You will find our fleets scattered. You will find our people gone. But you will also find this. The hologram shifted. Data streams flooded the display. Coordinates. Encryption keys. Schematics. What is this? Thrain hissed. Veclis leaned forward, his mandibles clicking softly. That is a map. The data resolved into three-dimensional space. Star systems. Relay stations. Krail supply routes. Every single weak point in their logistics network, laid bare. Every vulnerability, every hidden base, every shortcut they used to move their fleets unseen. Impossible, Jex whispered. The Krail guard that information with their lives. They did, Veclis said quietly. The humans took it anyway. The voice returned. We could not win. But we could make sure you remember us. We could make sure the Krail pay for every life they took. We leave this gift to the galaxy. Use it. Do not use it. We do not care. But when you see the Krail broken, when you see their empire crumble, remember that it was the humans who struck the first blow. The transmission ended. Silence filled the council chamber. No one moved. No one spoke. Orletha's light dimmed. Verify this data. Already done, Veclis said. It is accurate. Every coordinate. Every weakness. If this information reaches the Krail's enemies, then the Syndicate falls, Thrain finished. Jex rose slowly, his massive frame casting long shadows. The humans are extinct. They left us a weapon. The question is, what do we do with it? Veclis turned back to the window. Out there, in the infinite dark, Earth was a grave. But the dead, it seemed, still had teeth. We decide, he said, if humanity's last act will be forgotten, or if it will burn across the galaxy. The council began to argue. But Veclis was no longer listening. He was thinking of a species that threw rocks at warships. A species that died on its feet. A species that, even in death, refused to kneel. The chain breaks. The transmission reached the outer rim within 12 hours. By the end of the first cycle, it had spread to 70 star systems. By the end of the second, it was everywhere. The council had tried to contain it. They had issued directives, threatened sanctions, deployed counter-signals. But the humans had been clever. They had embedded the data in a viral protocol, designed to replicate and spread across every relay, every comm buoy, every unencrypted channel in known space. It was a plague of information, and there was no cure. Admiral Korath of the Valtor Ascendancy stood in the command center of his flagship, the Iron Resolve, watching the chaos unfold on the tactical display. Red markers blossomed across Krail territory like blood in water. Each marker represented an attack. Each attack represented a species that had waited decades, sometimes centuries, for an opportunity like this. 17 confirmed strikes in the last 6 hours, his second-in-command reported, her voice tight with barely controlled excitement. The Pelthrin Concordat hit 3 supply depots. The Sarkhan Freehold crippled a dreadnought. And the Orcs. Admiral, the Orcs just broadcast a declaration of war. Koratha's 3 eyes narrowed. The Orcs were pacifists. They had not engaged in military action for 400 cycles. But the Krail had raised one of their colony worlds 70 cycles ago, and the Orcs never forgot. The humans did this, Korath said quietly. Sir. The humans. He gestured at the map, at the spreading chaos. They knew. They knew that the galaxy would not mourn them. They knew we would not avenge them. So they gave us the tools to avenge ourselves. His second stared at the display. They gave us a war. No. Koratha's mandibles clicked softly. They gave us a chance. Across the galaxy, the dominoes fell. The Krail Syndicate had ruled through fear and overwhelming force for 2 centuries. Their fleets were massive. Their soldiers were brutal. Their reach was long. But their empire was built on a foundation of secrecy and speed. They moved through hidden routes, struck without warning, and vanished before retribution could find them. Now, every hidden route was exposed. Every secret base was marked. Every supply line was vulnerable. High Overseer Drask stood in the war room of the Krail Command Station, watching his empire bleed. The holographic display showed losses mounting by the hour. 6 outposts destroyed. 2 fleets ambushed. A refinery colony overrun. His officers shouted reports, demanded orders, begged for reinforcements that did not exist. How? Drask's voice was a low growl, a sound that made his subordinates flinch. How did they get this information? His intelligence officer, a wiry creature with too many eyes, hesitated. The transmission. High Overseer, it came from Earth. Earth is ash. Yes, High Overseer. But before it became ash, the humans, they infiltrated our networks. They stole everything. Fleet movements. Encryption protocols. Base locations. And then they released it to the galaxy. Drask's claws dug into the command console. The humans are extinct. Yes, High Overseer. Then how are they still hurting us? No one answered. Drask stared at the map. Red markers spread like infection. The Valtor Ascendancy was mobilizing. The Orcs had declared war. The Pelthrin Concordat, those cowards who hid behind treaties and diplomacy, were launching raids. Even the minor species, the ones the Krail had stepped on without a second thought, were rising up. They are all using the human data, his intelligence officer said quietly. Every strike is coordinated around the information Earth provided. The humans gave them the map. Now they are following it. Drask's breathing was ragged. How long? Sir. How long until the Empire falls? The officer looked at the spreading red. If this continues, 6 cycles. Maybe less. Drask turned slowly. His officers stood silent, waiting for orders. But what orders could he give? The Krail were strong. The Krail were unstoppable. The Krail had crushed 100 species and conquered 1,000 worlds. But the humans, those weak, primitive humans, had found the cracks. And now the galaxy was pouring through them. Recall the fleets, Drask said, his voice hollow. All of them. Every ship. Every soldier. Bring them home. High Overseer, if we abandon the outer territories. We have no choice. Drask's eyes burned. The humans made sure of that. Back in the council chamber, the arguments had reached a fever pitch. Species that had remained neutral for centuries were now choosing sides. Alliances were forming. Old grudges were being settled. The galaxy, which had been stagnant for so long, was suddenly, violently alive. Veclis watched it all from his window. The void beyond was no longer empty. Ships moved through the darkness, fleets gathering, armies mobilizing. The humans had lit a fire. Now it was spreading. They wanted this, Thrain said, slithering up beside him. The humans. They wanted chaos. No. Veclis shook his head. They wanted justice. They knew they could not have it. So they made sure someone else would. And now the Krail will fall. Yes. Thrain was silent for a moment. What will we do when the Krail are gone? What will fill the void they leave? Veclis did not answer. He did not know. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The galaxy would never forget the humans. Not because they were strong. Not because they won. But because even in death, they had changed everything. Sir, a voice called from the council floor. We have received another transmission. Veklis turned. From whom? The technician hesitated. Origin point. Earth. The chamber went silent. That is impossible, Orleth said. Earth is dead. Yes, speaker. But the transmission is new. It was sent 3 hours ago. Veklis felt something cold settle in his chest. Play it. The hologram flickered. Static. Then a voice. Not Elena Kovac this time. Someone else. Younger. Male. This is Lieutenant Marcus Chen, last survivor of Earth Defense Command. If you are hearing this, then the data worked. The Krail are falling. Good. They earned it. The voice was tired. So tired. I am alone now. The others are gone. The cities are gone. The oceans are burning. But I am still here. And I have one more thing to say. A pause. The sound of labored breathing. You thought we were weak. Maybe we were. But we were never broken. And we will never be forgotten. Remember that. Remember us. Remember that humanity did not go quietly. Remember that we fought. Remember that we mattered. The transmission ended. Veklis stared at the empty hologram. Somewhere, on a dying world, a human was still breathing. Still fighting. Still defiant. The council chamber remained silent. Because there was nothing left to say. The last human. The rescue fleet arrived at Earth 72 hours after Marcus Chen's transmission. Commander Veklis led the formation himself, against the objections of the council, against the warnings of his advisors, against every instinct that told him to stay away from a dead world. But something in that human's voice had reached him. Something that would not let him rest. The Dauntless, his personal cruiser, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's orbit. What he saw made his blood run cold. The planet was dying. Massive fires consumed the continents. The oceans boiled in places where Krail plasma bombardment had struck deepest. The atmosphere was choked with ash and radiation. No life could survive this. Nothing could survive this. Scan for life signs, Veklis ordered. His sensor officer worked in silence for several minutes. Then, sir. I have something. Faint. Barely registering. Surface level. Coordinates transmitted to your station. Veklis looked at the coordinates. North America. What had once been called Colorado. A military installation, buried deep in a mountain. Prepare a landing team, Veklis said. Full hazard gear. We go in fast. We go in careful. His second-in-command, RYTH, turned to him. Commander, the radiation levels. I know the radiation levels. If the Krail return. They will not return. Veklis met RYTH's gaze. The Krail are too busy bleeding. They do not have ships to spare for a corpse world. We have time. Not much, but enough. RYTH nodded slowly. Yes, Commander. The dropship punched through the toxic atmosphere, shaking and groaning under the strain. Veklis gripped his restraints and watched the surface rise to meet them. Ruined cities stretched to the horizon. Twisted metal. Shattered glass. The bones of a civilization picked clean. They landed near the mountain facility. The entrance had been blown open, likely by Krail breach charges during the initial assault. Veklis led his team inside, their armor lights cutting through the darkness. The facility was a tomb. Bodies lined the corridors, human soldiers who had died defending their world. Some had been burned. Some had been shot. Some had simply collapsed, overcome by wounds or exhaustion or despair. Veklis stepped carefully around them, offering each a moment of silent respect. Life sign is below, the scanner operator reported. Deep. Sublevel 9. They descended through the facility, past armories stripped bare, past command centers where screens still flickered with useless data, past medical bays where the injured had died waiting for help that never came. At sublevel 9, they found him. Lieutenant Marcus Chen sat slumped against a wall in what had once been a communications room. His armor was cracked and scorched. His left arm hung useless at his side. Blood stained his uniform. But his eyes were open. Alert. Alive. In his right hand, he held a pistol. It was pointed at the doorway. "Stay back," Chen rasped, his voice barely above a whisper. Veklis raised his hand slowly, showing he was unarmed. "Lieutenant Chen. We received your transmission. We are here to help." Chen's pistol did not waver. "Help. Right. Where were you 3 weeks ago? Where were you when the Krail bombed our cities? Where were you when they killed 6 billion people?" "We were not there," Veklis said quietly. "And I will carry that shame for the rest of my life. But we are here now. Too late. Perhaps." Veklis took a step forward. "But you are still alive. That means it is not over." Chen laughed, a broken sound. "Look around. Earth is dead. Humanity is dead. I am the last one. The last one." His hand shook. "What is the point of saving me?" Veklis was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Because you matter." Chen blinked. The pistol lowered slightly. "Your species fought an empire that had crushed 100 worlds," Veklis continued. "You had no chance of victory. You knew that. But you fought anyway. And when you knew you would die, you made sure your death meant something. You gave the galaxy a weapon. Because of you, the Krail are falling. Because of you, species that have lived in fear for centuries are finally free. That does not bring Earth back," Chen whispered. "No. It does not. Nothing will. But it means your people did not die for nothing. It means humanity's story does not end here, in this room, with you bleeding out in the dark." Chen stared at him. Tears cut tracks through the grime on his face. "I am so tired. I know. They are all gone. My squad. My friends. My family. Everyone. I know. Why me? Why am I the one left?" Veklis knelt slowly, bringing himself to eye level with the human. "Because someone had to be. Someone had to survive to tell the story. Someone had to carry the memory. And fate chose you." Chen's pistol clattered to the floor. He covered his face with his good hand and wept. Veklis gestured to his medical officer, who hurried forward with emergency supplies. They stabilized Chen's injuries, wrapped him in thermal blankets, prepared him for transport. As they carried him toward the dropship, Chen grabbed Veklis's arm weakly. "What happens to me now?" "You live," Veklis said simply. "You heal. You remember. And you make sure the galaxy never forgets what happened here." Chen nodded slowly. "Okay. Okay." The Dauntless broke orbit 3 hours later. Behind them, Earth burned on. But one human, the last human, lived. In the council chamber, Veklis delivered his report. The members listened in silence. When he finished, Speaker Orleth spoke. "What do you propose we do with him?" "Give him sanctuary," Veklis said. "Give him a home. Give him a voice. Let him speak for his species. Let him remind us of what we allowed to happen. And let him remind us never to allow it again." "And the Krail?" Counselor Jex asked. "The Krail are finished," Veklis said flatly. "The last reports show their outer territories in full collapse. Within 10 cycles, the Syndicate will be a memory. Humanity made sure of that. Ambassador Thrain uncoiled slowly. Then the humans won. No, Bekla said. They lost everything. But they made sure the galaxy won. That is what makes them worthy of remembrance. The council voted. It was unanimous. Humanity would have a memorial. Marcus Chen would be granted full citizenship in the galactic community. And Earth, that burned and broken world, would be declared a protected grave, never to be touched, never to be forgotten. Weeks later, Marcus Chen stood before the council for the first time. He was healed, though scars remained. He wore no uniform, no armor. Just simple clothes. He looked small among the towering alien forms. But when he spoke, his voice filled the chamber. My name is Marcus Chen. I am human. I am the last human. And I am here to tell you a story. The council listened. We were not the strongest. We were not the smartest. We did not have ancient weapons or forgotten empires to save us. We had only ourselves. And when death came for us, we looked it in the eye and we did not blink. He paused, letting the silence settle. You did not save us. But you are here now. And that matters. Because now you have a choice. You can let fear rule you. You can let empires like the Krail rise again. Or you can remember us. Remember that even the smallest species, even the weakest voice, can change everything. Marcus Chen looked out at the assembled representatives of the galaxy. We were human. We were brief. We were bright. And we mattered. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, one by one, the representatives rose to their feet. It was not applause. It was not agreement. It was acknowledgement. The humans had been here. The humans had fought. The humans had made the galaxy remember. And they would never, ever be forgotten.